Welcome to the WFNY CornerCast, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. I am Joe Gerbs Gerberry, and as you can already tell, we have a nice little intro. Thanks to Mac Robinson of uh, he does a bunch of things. I'm actually not sure 100% where he wants to be credited, so I'm just going to thank him. I know him from Twitter, and Matt Derry actually gave us a connection there for recording that. Guys, we are recording a baseball podcast on the first night of the NFL draft, which is on par for us. The Browns don't
Wait,
have a pick, so it makes sense, right? We should be talking
the,
baseball right now.
the NFL
So,
draft was tonight? I didn't even know.
right, possibly. Who knows? Yeah, Browns don't have a first round pick, so we figured
Exactly.
why not fire this up? So
Yeah. It's like the Browns aren't relying on a first round pick. We're not looking for a quarterback. So it's like, who cares? It's
right,
Guardian season.
Guardian season, fantastic. We were on a 7-game losing streak. So, Mitch,
Yeah.
Ethan, how are you guys doing? How are you? I actually asked if I had it written down. How do you like the intro? Did you guys listen to it before the podcast or no? I sent it to you, but you can be honest and say that you didn't. It's fine.
I'm going to be completely honest. For whatever reason on my end, I could not open the audio file that you sent me, and it was just dead air in my ears when you played it at the start of this. So I will have to hear it tomorrow when the podcast goes
Fantastic.
live.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'm
no. I've been avoiding my computer for hours now. Like it's either study or just avoid my computer. So I've been choosing to do that.
no worries. That is fine. It, it's fitting that on the struggle bus with that because the Guardians are on the struggle bus. As I mentioned, we are in the midst of a 7-game losing streak right now. Today was a rough one out there. Not what you want to have on the ends of a right in the middle actually of a road trip. Um, there have been now only 2 games that the Guardians have scored 2 runs or more than 2 runs in this stretch. Guys, what happened to the Guardians? Who broke the Guardians? What was the anybody have any feelings? Ethan, Mitch, any M Dog, anybody have any just as to what actually happened to this offense that seemed to be clicking and now is not?
Yeah, let's break this down a little bit. So it's not that any one pitcher or one game or one group of nasty fans in a Bronx outfield broke the Guardians. We've talked about it a lot as the team got off to a really hot start and they started showing some flashes that they have an identity and they're going to be this on base powerhouse, guys drawing walks, stealing bases, and just death by 1,000 cuts type of offense. Not really trying to blast the ball out of the park, but can surprise you with it when, somebody like Jose comes up with 2 runners on. I think what we have seen as fans the last 7 games is the absolute rock bottom of what the other side of the coin is to that style of offense. Everybody in the lineup just has gone stone cold that's not named Jose Ramirez. And when there's nobody insulating him and no team is afraid of any of the other 8 guys in your lineup, you pitch around Jose and you don't get any offense.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem with building a team around contact without power, right? Is if, everyone's slumping, the occasional breakthrough is not a homer. It's not a 2 or 3 run homer. It's a single, right? Like,
Single up the middle and a hope for a hit and run on.
right. Stringing together 3 consecutive singles is not easy when you're in a team wide slump. This is what that slump looks like. No, I will say, not only do they not hit for power, but they are striking out quite a bit over the last week, over the last 7 days, not including today, but starting yesterday. They're at a 25.4% strikeout rate, which is much higher than you'd expect coming from a team that relies so much on contact. So that's no good. Um, And the BABIP is low too. And that's the other problem with relying on contact is, every once in a while you string together line drives right at guys or grounders right at infielders. And, that's just as likely, if not more likely, than stringing together 3 consecutive singles. So yeah, this is what the slump looks like for a contact hitting team. Like, I don't think it's going to continue to be this bad, but I don't think anyone could have expected it to be roses the whole way through, right? This is what not roses looks like.
True.
Significantly not roses right now.
Not roses.
Yeah. It's especially bizarre. And I could have bought into this Angels series being a lot closer than it was, given, the Guardians pitching isn't quite there yet this year. I heard somebody on the broadcast said that, this time through the rotation is about where these guys wanted to be exiting spring training, just at the time that they lost. So I could have believed that this was a closer series based on the offense they were facing. I was not blown away by any of the Angels pitching. I think Lorenzen had a good game. His movement was tough to pick up on. Sandoval probably had the best showing of any of them,
Sandoval
but I was not.
Awesome. Sorry, I just have to jump in to say, because in our Discord chat on the private side, we were talking about potential winners or sleepers in the AL, and I mentioned the Angels, and I got doubted. Sandoval's awesome, man.
No, I'm a big Patrick Sandoval believer, but Shohei did not have his stuff.
No,
and
you got
Reed
torched by
Detmers
Jose a couple times.
Yeah, and Reed Detmers is not the pitcher that the team made him look like today. He's going to be. He's only 22. He's a really young guy, and I believe in him too, but he's just not there yet. But he just stymied this offense completely today.
Yeah, it was reminiscent of those couple years where anytime they faced a rookie, the first time out, they just seemed to be ice cold, and that's what this all felt like this year, which makes sense. It's a really young lineup with a lot of guys that are seeing major league pitchers for possibly the first time, let alone guys as good as some of these pitchers. Is there anything to? I know the answer is probably no, but is there anything to Kwan being a missing piece of this lineup? He missed this series with the Angels, which forced them to move Ahmed Rosario up to the 2-hole for the most part, mix and match mostly in that 2 spot. But he was out for all 4 of these games. Tito said that it's looking like he's going to be okay for the Oakland series. But that takes a good contact hitter away. That forces Rosario up and kind of shortens that lineup the way that the team had previously wanted to lengthen it. Is there anything with that, or is it just a little bit of random variance?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was the missing piece, right? Like, the offense did not look good, period. I mean, aside from the 8th and 9th innings of a non-competitive game yesterday, the offense looked pretty darn bad. Don't think Kwan is the difference there, unless he somehow decided to start hitting for power.
Right.
Not out of the realm of possibility, but
Would've
not
been nice.
something he's done yet. So I don't necessarily buy that. It's been not a great series, not just from the hitting side, but I mean, Quantrill today did not look good, and he hasn't looked good all year. I'm quite worried about Quantrill personally. He's not getting swings and misses. He's not getting strikeouts. I think there's real reason to think that, like, by the end of the year, Quantrill, I don't know, if he keeps going at this pace, I'm worried about his spot in the rotation.
Yeah, I mean it does bear out that they are just in the middle of a rut right now. So, Ethan, do you have any feelings about Kwan being missing and the lineup at all, or would you want to just move on?
Kwan, it's like a 70-30 thing. Kwan being the 30% part that the team is really missing. Because in front of Jose, if Straw and Kwan get on, then you're less likely to pitch around Jose. You don't want to load the bases for anybody with nobody out. But at the same time, until Franmil, who I think is the 70% part and who was just absolutely abysmal this series, gets it going. He batted fifth and sixth, I think, in the last two games of this series as he got worse and worse. But I mean,
think it was actually sixth the last two. Yesterday and today was sixth, both times, I believe.
Franmil's total line for this 4-game series in LA, in which he played all 4 games, he was 0 for 14 with 10 strikeouts and 1 walk. That's some Bradley Zimmer spring training mode there. You've got to get Franmil going just to have the threat of him behind Jose. But right now, I don't think other teams are even worried about him making contact.
No.
Right.
I mean, I'm completely with you, Ethan. He is so off right now. And like, I don't know what you do if you are the Guardians, right? Like, you can't bench this guy, can you? I mean, you can't send him down the minor leagues. That's crazy. I mean, he had 40 homers. So what do you do? It's really a tough situation that they're in. And I have faith that it'll get solved, but in the meantime, it's really tough to take that 0 in the DH spot of all places. I mean, that Richie Palacios could be a DH. He's looking good. Josh Naylor could be a DH. He's looking good. But right now, the DH is a 0.
Yeah, when you're not adding anything to the field, Franmil has to produce in that DH spot to have any kind of help, and it's just not happening. And it's not even that he's making productive outs. It's swings and misses and looking as lost as anybody, looking as lost as we would look at the plate. So, is there anything to Bodie had mentioned, and this might have been our private side, that the Yankees series seemed to be that they just were struggling to get they were getting hits, getting on base. They were struggling to get that point across, the runs across. With the Angels, it really felt like they were struggling against these pitchers. Is there anything there? Is that just a little bit of variance, you guys, or is there something that was a little bit more different with the Angels pitchers versus the Yankees ones? Ethan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, the variance is real, and this is going to be kind of a very, very simplistic breakdown, not really diving into any advanced statistics here. The bottom line is that you have to score runs to win games. Guardians are 7-12 so far.
I have heard that. I have heard those statements before.
It's a rare thing that you don't really hear from the Ohio teams, but the Guardians are 7-12 so far, and there is a massive discrepancy between what they've done in their wins versus what they've done in their losses. So wins so far this season, the team is averaging almost 13 hits per game and scoring 9 runs a game. Pretty good. In their 12 losses this season, the team is averaging just under 6 hits a game and scoring 1.5 runs a game. Now, granted, that has skewed them to a 4.3 run per game total, which is a top 10 offense in baseball, but that's odd considering they've only scored 4 runs actually once this season. So they're either blowing the doors off of teams or getting nearly shut out.
Yeah. I mean, there is something to the fact that they faced Shohei Ohtani, who didn't pitch all that well. But, I think, like, the problem with analyzing baseball in such micro amounts, in such small amounts, is like, is the Guardians' offense bad because they're bad, or because they faced Patrick Sandoval, who's good, or Garrett Cole, who's good, or the entire Yankees pitching staff, who's very good? It's really, really tough, right? And it's like they were excellent in the first week or two, and it was wonderful. And we all kind of knew, like, they're not going to be scoring 6.5 runs a game, right?
Right.
This last week, it's been the opposite. I mean, the BABIP has been down, the K rate has been up. Is this who they are? I don't think so. I really don't. They've faced some good pitchers, and they've left some runners in scoring position in the Yankees series. That happens. And, that's why they play 6 months of this. This is 1 week of 6 months. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, right? In football, until recently, there were 16 games in a season. In baseball, there were 162. So each baseball game is a tenth of a football game. Each team has about 10 possessions, give or take, in a football game. I could be wrong about that. Maybe 12, something like that. So each time to bat, or sorry, each game in baseball is essentially like a possession in football. We react so hard to these games,
Right.
but in the fact is there's so much left. Um, it's been a tough week. It'll change. They'll be good again. Um, the question is, is Fran Mill going to continue to produce, is he going to continue to struggle? Is he going to produce? What's going to happen to Naylor? These are the stuff that we need to focus on, because at the end of the day, right, this is not a competitive team. No one was like the Guardians, like, need to win. We need to start off strong to make the playoffs. That was not our expectation.
Right.
We want to see what these guys turn into. And we want Franmil to be a piece going forward. And this is really worrisome. So let's all think about that. I don't know.
Yeah, that it's been this long. That's more so the worrisome. It's fine if it's a week or two of a slump or something like that. But
Right.
I mean, one home run on the season. He's hit a couple balls hard right at guys, but I mean,
Right.
he's like he's looking rough. So Ethan, you got a point.
Right.
I cut you off.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that's the chord that we, the three of us being we, have been and will continue to keep striking, is that this is going to be a developmental year and there's always going to be positives to take away.
Yeah.
The super shallow dive that I've done into the offensive disparity isn't to say like this is what the team is going to be going forward. This is just further proof that Jose Ramirez cannot be the only thing that is powering your offense in a 9-man line.
And Owen Miller.
Oh, even Owen Miller. So I actually pulled his numbers too. In his first series back from COVID, he was 3 for 13 with 4 strikeouts and did not score or drive in a run. But that's not trying to take away from him. It was just proof that the entire lineup was very rough. But there's still positives to be pulled away. I mean, Austin Hedges had 2 hits today, including a home run, and I had an excuse to tweet out my Austin Hedges home run face screen cap from last season that I absolutely adore. Andres Jimenez, who didn't start today, is back hitting over 300 after a 2-hit performance yesterday. So there's little things to like that you can still see coming together. It's just they have to find a way to string those. Palacios has 4 hits in his first 2 games, and Jimenez is hitting relatively well. They have to string that together with the guys at the top of the order.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And at the end of the day, this 7-game losing streak, it's tough to watch. We want the Guardians to win, obviously. But like I was saying, no one was like, oh, this team has a chance to challenge the White Sox for the AL Central title. No one was saying that. No one thought that.
Right.
And so a 7-game losing streak, as frustrating as it is to watch, at the end of the day, what's the difference? We knew this year was about, is Andres Jimenez going to take the next step? Is, Franmil Reyes a real piece of this core? How about Josh Naylor? Yeah, no, that is a good point, Ethan. The White Sox.
I wanted to bring up your milk take from earlier in the year, but I was waiting on that one. Ethan had posted that the White Sox might not challenge the White Sox for the AL Central, and that Mitch had earlier in the year said that they he felt as though the White Sox were a gallon of milk that was ready to expire. And
it was a carton of fresh whole milk, is what. There you go. Yeah, it's delicious right now, but if it doesn't happen soon, it might go bad. I don't know.
And every injury and every instance that has come up, it has grown. Right. Literally,
it's one day closer to that expiration date.
Right. The coagulation in the milk of the White Sox has gotten worse. So sorry, I completely cut you off from your point. Go ahead and finish up.
No. The point is simply that a 7-game losing streak sucks. As a fan, it sucks. I hated watching these games. But this is not going to be a 95-win team this year. This is about finding the next pieces for that 95-win team next year or 2 years from now, right? That's the goal. So they lose 7 games in a row. It's short-term annoying, but long-term it's like, It's like I'd much rather them lose 7 in a row where we learn something about this team, where we learn something about the pitching, we learn something about Andres Jimenez. I mean, this man Andres Jimenez has done nothing but field the ball well. He's looked smooth.
Yeah.
He's actually hit the ball well too, and he still can't buy an everyday spot in the lineup. I mean,
Right.
If Andres Jimenez played all 7 of these games and they lost all 7, but he looked how he looked, that's pretty good. So I'm more frustrated by the fact that he's not playing than I am with them losing, weirdly.
The way the team has played, and you struck a major chord with me too, and I was getting on about this in our private side Discord earlier. Even if he can't hit that well against lefties, he's a career 212-ish hitter against lefties, but he's 23. He'll figure it out. Let him have those at-bats.
He's got the tools.
Yeah, but his defense is so much more valuable to you in the field the way this Guardians defense has started the season. It's absolutely ludicrous that you would rather, I mean, Quantrill and Owen Miller combined for the 2 bad ones today on Thursday, but
Right.
I've seen enough of Ahmed Rosario throwing a baseball across the diamond. It's just I'm over it.
Put him at DH. No, to your point,
He
though,
can't
Rich,
hit either.
to your point, and we'll wrap up and move on after this. But one thing I've made mention of in the past, because this team has been in contention in years previous, they haven't been able to give this development time to these players, and so we've seen Bradley Zimmer and Oscar Mercado basically vanish because they weren't able to have any development against major league hitters, major league pitchers with the big club, because the team was so stars and scrubby that they needed to have production from those spots. So they were forced to have, to move them around and try for other things and hope for something. And now we're actually seeing them give these guys
Right.
a shake. And so to your point of the 7 games, looking for things that are positive, this may allow Mill to work through some of these things. There may not be, right now we're not seeing it, but Owen Miller actually being able to struggle as opposed to last year where he came up, struggled, and then was immediately sent back down because they were in contention and they didn't have time to burn his at bats.
Yeah. No, I'm really fascinated by that point, Gerbs. Like, I think people have been so frustrated with Bradley Zimmer and Oscar Mercado to a lesser extent.
Right.
But that's such a good point that, when you're in contention trying to win, you're not going to experiment with guys who are high variance. You're going to play, okay, we're a stars and scrubs lineup.
Right.
We have this defensive outfielder who's very strong defensively, and he can't hit, but hey, we know what he is, and he's not going to be a net negative. So let's throw him out there. Versus now, where it's they're not contending. There is no point in playing a guy whose ceiling is a very flawed player. So time to get rid of Bradley Zimmer. He served a purpose, and I think that's something that a lot of people sleep on. Is he is a major league player, unless he continues to strike out at his spring training levels, but he's likely a major league player.
Is he getting any run in Toronto? I haven't actually checked up on him at all.
Was he on Toronto? I thought he was on Milwaukee.
Who went to Milwaukee?
Yeah,
I thought Zimmer went to Toronto.
Zimmer's with Toronto. He's filling in. Okay. Somebody's injured with the Blue Jays. He's there now.
He's been dreadful.
Yeah, that's about right.
Shocker.
That's what we all figured. So
yeah, -2 WRC plus.
Fantastic. Okay, we've been on the struggle bus with the offense enough. So let's move on. Coming up on May 2nd. So once the Guardians come back home, Major League Baseball is going to start. All 30 teams are going to have to move their rosters from 28 players to 26 players. That means obviously 2 are going to be missing. who on this roster as it stands is going to get the axe, and these players obviously you can send someone like an Ernie Clement or Nolan Miller that have options. You can send them back down to the minors, but there's a lot of chaff on this roster that we keep talking about with Bradley and Yu Chang and Logan Allen. Um, who is the guys that are probably going to get designated for assignment, DFA'd, however you want to say it? Who's getting the cut? Ethan, do you want to? Who's your first one out of the door to cut down from 28 to 26?
I'm going to preface this with we saw a tweet from our very own Dairy Bros earlier before
Yes.
the podcast started.
Yes, TD Dairy did tweet out and that. Go ahead. You can. There's no reason for me to cut you off and tell you what the tweet is. You have it right there in front of you, I'm sure.
It's all good. He said he was listening to the radio broadcast, and Cleveland's very own Tom Hamilton said something interesting, that when the roster constricts on May 2nd, there's going to be a lot of new faces on the roster. So that sounds a bit more shuffling than just what we have been harping about, the three of us, for the season.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's surprising.
It doesn't seem like just some cuts. It might seem like there's more than two out and guys coming back in.
But
right. So if you think about who's in AAA and who needs to come up and get time and all of this, Tyler Freeman just came back from the IL this week and is starting with the Clippers.
yeah, but he's not a major leaguer. He's not a major leaguer, right?
We don't know that yet.
Okay. I'd be
All right.
surprised.
Nolan Jones was updated on the 25th by Zach Meisel. He is doing baseball activities and hitting out of the batting cages. He should be joining the Clippers probably within the next week or two, I would assume, based on that timeline. So those two guys need a chance. Gabriel Arias, who came up as the extra man for the doubleheader, would like to see some extended playing time. Both I would, as well as the team probably would. So that right there alone is enough to get rid of Bobby Bradley, Yu Chang, and Logan Allen. But I would also say that even then, I think Oscar Mercado's days are still numbered.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit all the guys that I think are pretty obvious candidates. You said Logan Allen, Bobby Bradley, Yu Chang, and Oscar Mercado. Yeah, no, that seems right to me. Those are definitely the obvious guys. Yu Chang just hasn't been playing. He's been injured, unfortunately, and Bobby Bradley has been ineffective and not playing. But I'm really curious where they go from here. There aren't exactly guys on the 40-man who are banging down the door right now. I mean, Arias has been fine in AAA, not fantastic. Lavastita's not coming up. I'd be surprised. Like I genuinely don't know who they'd shuffle up for more guys. Now I will say,
go ahead.
I don't know how it would work. It doesn't seem intuitive to me, but I am always looking for opportunities to trade Ahmed Rosario. If guys are like we talked about it right now, the Guardians aren't necessarily, there aren't only two expendable guys on the roster. There's arguably four, right? Are there teams trying to pare down their roster more than just these two guys? Is anyone needing a shortstop? Because maybe, just this, even if it's not all that related to the trade market, maybe there's something about the roster shuffle that makes it more likely that someone can get traded. Every day that Ahmed Rosario remains on this major league team is a day that I'm mildly frustrated by the fact that they haven't traded him yet.
Old man yelling at clouds.
Yes.
I did want to mention the possibility of the Ahmed Rosario trade, because the way this team runs, you don't know about this stuff until it's happened already.
Mm-hmm.
And that's both something that I can appreciate, but it also endlessly frustrates me. So I would not be surprised if this team already has a trade in place for him, looking at, maybe not a shortstop, but Atlanta just lost Eddie Rosario to eye surgery for an extended period of time. He technically plays left field, if you want to call it.
Yeah, but they also just got Ronald Acuna back, so they're fine.
Hey,
taking
I
out
mean,
Eddie, and
potato,
putting in
potato.
Ronald is
you know
Nick,
who's
what were you saying?
arguably been, if not Franmil Reyes, the worst player in the league this year? Dansby Swanson. Maybe they. Am I wrong about that? I might be completely wrong about that.
I don't know. I haven't. I haven't checked up on Swanson.
Right.
I don't have him on any of my fantasy leagues. So
Dansby Swanson. Okay, he hasn't been the worst player in the league. He's been really bad though. He's got a 61 WRC plus. Not that they're looking for Ahmed Rosario. I don't know. I just felt like trashing Dansby Swanson for.
I'm just saying, there's
they could pair up the
probably
Rosarios.
opportunities
We
out
tried
there. We did. There's probably opportunities out there to make a trade like that. A team probably could use one. You never know when an injury is going to occur between now and May 2nd, but it would not shock me if this team already had something in mind.
Yeah. No, okay. Just to defend myself, Dansby Swanson was one of the worst players in the league, and then today he went 2 for 3 with a homer.
Well,
so he worked his way back up. That's what happened.
When your numbers are bad enough, and any 2 for 3
One day.
one day it can help you out this early on. So
let's hope that's in the cards for Franmil.
yes. The only pushback I'm going to give on any kind of trades coming in is to have a trade lined up for 5 days from now, 4 days from now, however long it might actually be. It just feels a little weird to have it ready that ahead of time when you have games to play now. Why not make the trade now? But I mean, who knows? It could be possible that if just thinking about it, they're looking at Murphy. It could be that they are Oakland's trying to pare down, and they are looking at prospects rather than major league guys. So if they're if the Guardians end up trading Freeman and a pitcher and Bo Naylor and then Cleveland gets Murphy, DFA's Maley, and all that. There could be some shuffling there that would end up working out, but
I see your point there.
I'm,
so let me rephrase what I said earlier.
Sure.
It's not necessarily that maybe the team, has a trade in place and they're just sitting there waiting for the clock to strike midnight on, May 2nd and just press a button. They're probably talking to teams already, if that's what's going to be the case.
100%. Yeah, these guys don't ever stop talking. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with you guys that Bradley and I think honestly Mercado is more in a guy that's on his way out. He has fallen off a cliff. The fact that in the same tweet that TD mentioned, Chang is rehabbing in Akron, that he's working back out and getting ready for I guess he took COVID a little bit harder than the rest of the guys. The fact that they are trying to rehab Chang and get him back up to speed. Obviously, they're not, completely cold-hearted people in an organization, but to mention that he is rehabbing to cut him in 4 days seems a little unlikely to me. But, it's possible that he's on the cutting block because Owen Miller and Clement have both stepped up to take over that role that he kind of let slip through his fingers when he got sick. So
that might benefit them.
Has he stepped up, Clement? I don't know.
He's been playing at least.
He's been solid as a defensive.
he's been solid. He hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been good.
Defensive wizard Ernie Clement. But to your point about Chang, how it might be cruel to cut him while he's rehabbing, he is out of options, but at the same time, the team might feel pretty comfortable putting a guy on the waiver wire who's recovering from COVID and rehabbing in AA, who's going to claim that.
True.
I have a feeling they value Yu Chang more than they value Ernie Clement. I mean, Yu Chang can actually hit for starters, like we've seen it. And Ernie Clement, what? Hey, we saw he was hot for like a month and a half last year. Like he was legit hot. Like I actually got.
He was doing things. He was doing things last year.
I got in an argument with WFNY alum Gage Will on Twitter before the season started. We were discussing Yu Chang versus Owen Miller. You can only pick one. And he was very Owen Miller, and I was very Yu Chang. And, credit where credit due. The man was right. Owen Miller has looked awesome this year. Like, even if he's not going to continue at this pace, like, you can see how he's a major league hitter. But Yu Chang was really excellent for a month or so last year. And the power is real. And, like, I don't know what Ernie Clement adds that he doesn't have. I mean, I guess he's a slightly better fielder, but like at the margins, like you'll take the guy who can hit the ball around a bit over the guy who's the slightly better fielder. I don't know. I think they value Yu Chang more than Ernie Clement personally.
I value him as an original guy.
Who, Yu Chang or Ernie Clement?
Yu Chang. I think when you have a super sub potential like Owen Miller, whose bat I think is just outright better and fits the profile of what this team wants to be, and you have all of these young guys who are going to pass Chang by the end of the season in terms of keeping them around, then I'm fine if you want to keep him around in AAA and use them in emergency situations, but there's a spot for him on this team, on this 40.
For sure. I'm just saying over Ernie Clement.
Yeah. And also, Clement does have options, I believe. So that's another thing that would keep him in the organization rather than Chang. So
yeah, he does have 2 options left.
Thank you for confirming. Okay, so we are done with the roster. Let's go to the pitching side. We've covered the struggle bus offense. Let's go to the struggle caboose of the pitching, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it here. We have coined a Plesac Island in our WFNY Discord private side that Andrew Schnicke is leading. I wrote in the notes, Plesac Island got flooded last night. There was a bad storm that took down anything that was built up on that island.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Andrew was the only survivor.
He is out there like Tom Hanks with Wilson right now. It is out. He is just lost.
Yeah.
So
he should come up with a better name for his volleyball than Plesac.
Zach doesn't cut it. We don't know why he called him Zach, but he did. That's where we're at right now. Yeah, it's not looking good for Plesac. Ethan, what happened last night with besides bad defensive play from Plesac himself, who is actually a fairly decent athlete, and you expect a little bit better. But what was wrong with Plesac last night, and is there hope for Plesac Island? Is there fortifications coming to push the water back, or are we just better throwing a life jacket to Andrew out here?
Plesac is a rough case, and I have made it known that I am not a fan of his, but he's not really doing himself any favors this season. Not a lot of the Guardians pitchers are. I mean, through a couple of starts so far this year, he's got a career low in strikeout rate. He averages striking out almost 19% of batters. He's at 13% so far this year, which is not ideal. He's not getting swings and misses, which for a guy with a fastball changeup combo is kind of going to be your bread and butter when you don't really have a wipeout slider. He has a decent slider, not a great one. And overall, I'm looking at his numbers right now. Yeah, he's down almost 3 miles an hour on his fastball velo from his time as a rookie in 2019, where he averaged 94 miles an hour. He's averaging 91.1 so far this year, and almost all of his other pitches are close to in line with their velo and their general usage stats for his career. So he's just, the loss of velo and not getting guys to whiff is killing him, not to mention the absolutely abysmal defense that's been behind some of these pitchers early in this season.
Yeah, I mean, Plesac got wrecked. He got just like absolutely wrecked in this game. But the big thing is it's the swings and misses, like you said. His velocity been down. He's not he's just not challenging hitters. I mean, like, if you're not nailing the corner, if you're not like, we've seen the recipe for success for Plesac. It is a guy who's throwing harder than he currently is, and a guy who is locating better than he currently is. His slider yesterday was incredibly flat. It's just hard to believe that this is the same guy who during the 2020 season was just like, stapling the corner with his slider and getting White Sox to flail at the pitch.
Right.
This guy, I don't know. It's tough to see him if he continues to pitch this poorly. It's tough to see him continue on the major league roster. It really is.
Major league roster, not even a bullpen arm. I mean, that's the what we've long thought is that Plesac is a setup guy in the making, but not even in the minors at this point, or
well, I think I think they'd probably send him down to rework his repertoire and his attack as a relief pitcher. Like, yeah, I'm not saying he can't be a major league reliever.
okay.
Although it does depend if his velocity jumps back up. I mean, if his velocity is still only like 91, 92 as a reliever, maybe he's not even that. But if he can get it back up to 94, 95, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you touched on both of those there with Plesac. There's really two options. You can either send him down to AAA and let him work with the development staff. Maybe they can come up with some mechanic tweaks. Maybe they can shorten the arm delivery, do anything to add a little bit back. But the thing that is sticking to me that I don't think he would, fit in the bullpen currently. We've talked about it a little bit with Eli Morgan, how in smaller sample sizes, his fastball velo spikes, which paired with his changeup makes him an effective reliever in one inning, 1 1/3 kind of stints. Plesac's not throwing much harder in the first than he is in the fifth. That velo's just gone. He's not starting like McKenzie is, where he might touch 95 in the first and then be throwing 91 by the end of it. He's just flat. There's nothing to it.
He's not the only one that's having velo problems either. Is this a? I know, Ethan, you had mentioned. I don't remember who you said was the quote was, but this is where they wanted to be after just to start the season out of spring training. Is there something here that it's a organization issue that everybody's behind with velo? I mean, aside from Tristan's the only one that's staying up there. Is it an organization thing, or is it a something that these guys are just not that they're trying to? We've had a bunch of pitching coaches changes this year with everything. I don't know. I'm just out here talking. Go ahead.
I think aside from Bieber, who is somebody that I'm keeping a careful eye on after his shoulder surgery, as I've been waiting to see his velo kind of go back up, and I'm starting to actually get a little bit concerned. But he's done enough with the other pitches to get swings and misses that he still looks like Shane Bieber. But there is some small red flags creeping in there. But otherwise, this is definitely an organizational thing and something that's going on within this team. There's been a lot of talk about the super unjuiced baseballs and how terrible it is for offense. But on the flip side of that, the average fastball velocity in Major League Baseball is 94 miles an hour for the first time in league history. And plain and simple, nobody besides Tristan McKenzie on this Guardians staff and that rotation is touching that. Mm-hmm. And everybody but Aaron Savale is having significant velocity decreases to start the season.
That is true. I will say, I think a lot of the reason the average fastball velocity is up is because a higher percentage of innings are going to relievers than ever before because guys aren't stretched out. But yeah, I mean, the facts are the facts. MLB fastball velocity is up, and the Guardians pitcher's fastball velocity is down. That doesn't exactly bode well. Hopefully, I mean, we can't know, right? Like in a week, it's possible that these guys' velocities do tick up to what we'd expect from the regular season velocities. And we'll come back and we'll think about this moment and be like, it was April in a shortened spring training. Like, of course it was fine. But then there's the possibility that it doesn't come back. And that's really worrisome. I think the saving grace, which I've said with the offensive struggles too, is that we weren't expecting anything this year, right? Like, and there are really exciting prospects coming down. I mean, if Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie take steps, well, Shane Bieber stays himself. Tristan McKenzie takes a step forward, which it seems like he's, right to do. There are pieces coming up the pipeline now that there weren't last year. It's not the end of the world. But it'd be nice to see Savali or Plesac or Quantrill pick it up a little bit. Wouldn't be the worst thing for this franchise. Um, yeah, I don't. But the problem is, I don't even know who to bet on. Like, who do you think is going to be the guy of those three Gerbs?
Out of the three that are bouncing back,
Savali, Plesac, and Quantrill.
I have faith in Quantrill a little bit
You
more
do.
than the other guys. I've long loved Savale, but Quantrill's the guy that I think is actually, he could be. It looks like Tristan's has kind of solidified himself as number two. It looks like Quantrill, could be the number three. I just Savale is an innings eater of innings eaters, and at his best, and we're not seeing his best right now. Plesac is just not locating. He's not getting the velo. We've covered it. We've almost talked it to death at this point. But it's Quantrill's the guy that I think is has the ability to bounce back. He can manage contact a little bit better than the other guys. The defense behind him is more of an issue. But we also have the team also has guys that are coming back up. Arias is on the way. Jimenez getting regular playing time. Those kind of things will help someone out like Quantrill more than Plesac or Savale. So, but anybody else have anything on the pitching, the major league pitching? Because I was going to go to the to minors here. Do you have something, Ethan?
Yeah, I'm really worried about Aaron Savale this season. I definitely have faith that Quantrill can bounce back and Plesac's kind of up in the air because his issues are maybe not necessarily something that will come back. But Savale has completely flipped from what we expect of him as, a ground ball pitcher, a guy who can generate some weak contact and rely on the defense behind him. This is a guy who entering the season had a 43% ground ball rate as a pitcher. It's under 26% this season. He's given up a career high 54% fly ball rate, which, okay, home runs and offense are at an all time low in baseball to start the year. Fine, whatever. But that's still not a great sign for Savale as a pitcher who's supposed to be this sinker baller, off speed kind of wizard to get people beat the ball right into the ground, rely on the guys on the infield to do the work for him. So not only has he had terrible defense behind him, but he's not doing what Aaron Savale has done in his major league career so far.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only hope is that it's been 3 games and like what we tell ourselves in the beginning of the season all the time, which is, yeah, I mean, his
small sample size and a prayer.
Yeah, his ERA is 9.58, but his StatCast ERA is 4.53. That's right in line with career norms. And yes, his FIP's up, but his ground ball rate's down. And maybe that's just because it's been a small sample size. I mean, I hope he's all right. Like, I'm just trying to come up with some positives because you're absolutely right. He's looked really bad. But maybe it's just the fact that it's 3 games and he's pitched against the Yankees once, right? And they're a good offense. I don't know. It's 3 starts. We'll see what happens. I'm worried too. I'm just trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I've been saying it this whole podcast, if they don't win 90 games, if they win 78 games, that's totally okay. That's what we expected. But it'd be more fun if they won more games, and it'd be less fun if they won fewer games. So let's hope Aaron Savali's okay.
And just for just for looking, I was looking at just ground ball percentage over the year, and obviously, we say small sample size. It's dropped 6% for the whole staff for Cleveland from last year. That largely hasn't really, if anything, they've gotten healthier. Last year was such a nightmare injury wise, where we were counting on J.C. Mejia and Eli, skinny Eli Morgan, to innings eat, and we're down. The team is down 6% on ground ball percentage. It's just weird right now that with the offense drop that the league is seeing, that the team is having such a problem with ground balls. That and getting ground balls and keeping the ball in the yard, keeping the ball out of the air. You'd think that they would be better at this. So I have hope that it's just small sample size and that these things will work out as the pitchers get a little bit more work with against major league hitters. But yeah, it was said on Twitter that the team has one ace in Bieber and a lot of twos and threes and fours starters. And that's actually probably right. It's not the vaunted starting rotation that we were anticipating or that we've seen in the past. And it's looking more and more accurate. So, let's move on to the minors, because as Mitch was mentioning, there is hope on the horizon that maybe this rotation has a chance of being good in the next couple of years. In that, if you are in the Akron area, you definitely need to make it out for a Daniel Espino game, make it out for a Logan T. Allen game, because these guys are battling for the best organization arm right now down in Akron. They both have, I think, the same amount of strikeouts, correct? I think that was the tweet that I saw earlier this week. Daniel Espino went 11 straight strikeouts. You guys, and before giving up a home run, or he said 11, or was it 11 straight strikeouts? I'm not 100%.
No,
Mitch
it was
is
11
nodding,
straight.
so
Yeah.
11 straight strikeouts.
11 straight, and he struck out 14.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Ethan, what do you think is the timeline on these guys? I just want to give a little bit of a farm system update, as we have it now in the intro, that we are also a touch on the farm system a little bit. Is there any kind of idea that these guys are going to be up this year, or is it all next year?
This year is absolutely out of the question, and this is going to be something to watch. This coming off season after this slate of 162 is over with. This is going to be the real test to see if this organization is committing to winning with Jose. They have a history of not adding guys until they absolutely have to, until that clock absolutely has to start. Both Daniel Espino and Logan Allen are not Rule 5 eligible until after next season. So it would be starting their clock early by everybody's standards in the Cleveland organization to get those guys up soon. And that would mean this past year's pick, Gavin Williams, wouldn't be eligible until 2024 for the Rule 5 draft. So those are the guys that I think a lot of people, ourselves included, think are going to be part of that next great Cleveland rotation. And the goal would be ideally to have those guys up and pitching well behind Bieber the tail end of his time with the Guardians. As Meisel has told us, we fully expect him to test free agency when the time comes. So I think next year would be optimistic, with the caveat that this isn't really something that the Cleveland organization does, is call guys up before their service clock absolutely has to start.
Yeah. I mean, Ethan's 100% correct about the top guys, Espino, Williams. These guys are not coming up this year. That's plainly clear at this point. The guys that we can look at for this year, maybe once he comes back from injury, Cody Morris or Peyton Battenfield, or we've already seen Pilkington this year, Tobias Myers, guys in AAA, who could figure it out and be a future part of this team, but could just be kind of up and down spot starters, and it wouldn't be the most surprising thing. One thing also to note, aside from Espino and Williams, and last year's breakout Xavier Curry and Logan Allen, who's been really sharp this year, the Guardians in a 20 round draft last year drafted 19 college pitchers. 19. And Shane Bieber was not a first 3 round pick college pitcher, nor was Zach Plesac, nor was Aaron Savali. I mean, and yes, none of these guys, we're already looking at, okay, who might replace them. But the point is there are probably, more than one major league quality starting pitcher among those players. And you can just spout off the names. I mean, Tommy Mace, Doug McCasey, Trenton Denholm, Davis Sharp. I forget his first name, but Boone is looking really good. Will Dion. I mean, and these are just guys off the top of my head who have made 5 starts this year, and there are 19 of them. I mean, long term, this pitching staff is going to be fine. And it's really exciting to follow these guys. I think I urge everyone to. It's really easy. Just check the box scores every day. Minor League Baseball website's really strong, because it is really exciting to see who's coming up the pipeline. Do you have a favorite, Ethan?
Man, put me on the spot like that. So just to go off the beaten path a little bit, because I know everybody is riding Espino, and he's a unicorn and his ceiling is so high, and yes, I love all of that, but I'm not going to continue to beat the dead horse. As he's pitched more and more, I've really come to like Logan T, who is this guy who he doesn't seem to have a lot of velocity, doesn't seem to have a lot of power to him, but he's got a strange arm angle. He's a smaller dude. He's got some great deception, and he just gets everybody to swing and miss. And he's proving pretty quickly that he's ready for the next level. He's better than the AA competition, that's for sure. And I personally am going to be very excited as a man who lives 15 minutes from Huntington Park to see both of these guys pitch in a Columbus Clippers uniform this year. I guarantee that happens. But for those two guys to see the majors this season, I'll give you a little tease. Maybe, just maybe, if both of these guys make AAA by the All-Star break this year, and if for whatever reason in the last week of the season the Guardians are hampered with injuries and they have a COVID outbreak, then just maybe one of or both of these guys make a Kirk McCarty-esque appearance as one of the players off of the 40-man roster that can come up in the new COVID rules.
Right.
Or maybe it's looking like the winner of the AL Central wins 85 games and the Guardians right in the thick of it. Call up Daniel Espino coming out of the bullpen, see what happens. Get a little frisky there.
Look like a little Danny Salazar.
Right. I say that would be if there is a, best case scenario, I think that would maybe be it, but that would be starting the clock a little bit early. So
yeah, no doubt. I'm just saying the AL Central looks pretty stinky this year.
Oh yeah,
could happen. Could the winner of this division could have 86 games.
And it might be the Twins at this rate. I mean, it might be the Twins at this rate. The Royals lost Adalberto Mondesi for the season. The White Sox are out. Eloy for the next 14 weeks. I think I saw.
I think they're actually going to have a real life funeral for Eloy. But unlike last year's jersey retirement that they had at the beginning of the year, Eloy is not doing well. But yeah,
the whole division is rough. The Tigers are the Tigers. I mean, they're going to make steps this year, but like Cleveland, they're a very young team who's also going to be going through the woes and the growth.
Yeah. I mean, The White Sox, we've established this. They don't have much depth. They have that core in place, but every fallen soldier for them is irreplaceable. It's
Right.
and the bullpen, which once looked so strong, they traded Craig Kimbrell and they promoted what's his name, the guy they got from Boston, the guy with the long hair, Kopech. They promoted Kopech, and Garrett Crochet is out with Tommy John surgery, and Liam Hendricks is struggling. And guess what? The bullpen that looked pretty strong is now looking pretty fallible. I don't know.
Not that it matters in the grand scheme of things. I do think it's just funny in comparison how Fangraphs is still working through their top X amount of prospects for every team, and they're onto the AL Central now. And the Guardians had 40 plus players on that list that they wrote blurbs and stat breakdowns about. And then a few days later, the White Sox list got published and they were under 30. So if that speaks to their depth at all, that Fangraphs only gave them 28 prospects worth writing about in their mind when they did almost 50 for the Guardians. It just kind of speaks to how that farm system is doing and how they kind of sold their souls to be where they are now, and they're biting it.
Yeah, they called up a lot of good guys, and a lot of them worked out. But I mean, the Rays call up a lot of good guys every year. They've got a pretty good farm system still. The White Sox farm system.
The Rays have a churn. They're prepped for that. So
but the Dodgers, I mean, all these teams have good cores full of homegrown players, and the White Sox do too. But yeah, no, their farm system's awful.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anybody else in the minors that is catching your eye, or are we gonna go to because we've already hit our hour? So do you want to go to look ahead, or do you have somebody else? Ethan, you raised your finger there for a second.
I got one more, and I just want to touch on him really quickly, and it's not for any reason other than it's kind of helping potential trade value, but Bo Naylor might be back through 13 games. Again, grain of salt, called a small sample size, but in 13 games with Akron, he's slashing 244, 358, 422, which is more in line with his normal numbers. He had a really abysmal year last year. He's got 4 extra base hits, he's drawn 7 walks, and he's stolen some bases. So given what the book is on him as a good defensive catcher, having a little bit of the bat come back, Guardians might have another trade chip.
Deal him for Cake Murphy. I'll bring him up before Mitch does.
Hey, I mean, whoever Oakland wants, they can have him. Just give us Sean Murphy.
Basically, right. I'm okay with that. So
that's a conversation for another day, because there are guys I will not give Oakland for Sean Murphy.
No, anyone they want.
Speaking of Sean Murphy, the team is heading to Oakland for a weekend series there before coming back home and having a day off finally. So they can pick up Sean Murphy on the way home, and then bring him back to Cleveland on Tuesday. That's definitely a thing that could possibly happen. Who knows? And then they have the Padres and the Blue Jays finishing up the week after that. It's only a 2-game set. There are rumors that it could be Mike Clevenger that actually is going to make his season debut for the Padres against the Guardians in Cleveland, which is a bunch of weirdness. But anything you're looking for this weekend series against the Athletics, anything you're looking for next week, I think a day off will help these guys a lot. Getting back home and having this rest. They've been going, every day for almost 2 weeks now. But a nice series of the Athletics where they've pretty much bombed out their roster except for Murphy and Frankie Montas. I don't know who the projected starters are for Oakland, but anything you guys are looking at there while I bring up the starting schedule here?
I am watching for 2 things in Oakland, and it's because I think we all deserve a little bit of fun. There is a non-zero chance for 2 non-baseball things to happen this weekend while the team is in Oakland. There is a chance that the team general manager or one of their front office executives might fight a Bay Area radio host on the field at some point, the way they've been going back and forth on Twitter. These two have been apparently trying to schedule a charity debate live in the stadium during a game, which is bizarre, but it's mostly just so the radio host can yell at them about the terrible job they've done. But the game that I want to play and that I'm looking forward to, there is a very significant chance that the number of feral cats in Oakland Stadium might outnumber the fans in attendance, and I cannot wait to be watching the stadium view from the broadcast.
Yeah, no, the feral cats might be a bigger draw to the stadium than the team. I mean, I kind of want to. I kind of am interested in a
I just
stadium
really
that's
enjoy
like.
that we know that there's feral cats in the Oakland Stadium.
Imagine like a stadium where you go to the game and it's like there are cats everywhere. Like that'd be kind of fun, right? Like
There are like shrines and parts of Greece and temples that are all about this. Just the cats are the draw. Oakland, you're onto something.
yeah, I think that'd be really fun. Like I think it'd be more fun than watching a team full of anonymous players that that ownership is currently paying instead of all of their stars that they traded away.
Hey, Oakland, I have an idea. Turn your stadium into a cat cafe. Come for some baseball, get a latte, adopt a cat, go home.
I mean, yes. That's
We're onto something.
That is marketing genius right there.
Billy Bean, call me.
Yeah. The thing to watch for this weekend is the thing that there is always to watch for. Is Owen Miller going to keep hitting? Is Andres Jimenez going to get playing time? Is Ahmed Rosario going to stay at shortstop the whole time? You know, what's up with Stephen Kwan? These are the things we look for.
He's not going to play left field. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's the case.
Yeah. And I looked up the starters. There is Frankie Montas tomorrow on Friday against Aaron Zavale. And then Cole Irvin on Saturday, who's a lefty, which means that Andres Jimenez probably won't play. Angry man shedding a cloud. And then Adam Aller on Sunday against Tristan is another righty. So if we're going strictly by the battle-hardened Tito, Andres Jimenez cannot face a lefty starter for reasons unbeknownst to anybody. It does look like there's only one game that he will be missing, but that's the lineup for this weekend. And then, like I said, it's looking like Mackenzie Gore possibly on Tuesday, and then hold on, Nick Martinez on Wednesday against Cal Quantrill.
I watched both of those guys pitch the last 2 days. Gore dismantled the Reds, and Martinez was pretty middle of the road. But
in fairness, who doesn't dismantle the Reds?
I was gonna say it's not hard to dismantle the Reds.
Yeah.
Well, Gore's still young, and there's been a lot of talk because he took so long to get here for various injury reasons that people didn't know if he was going to pan out. But he dismantled Cincy yesterday.
So, all right. Was there anything else you guys wanted to cover while we have you, or kind of wraps us up?
Yeah, no, I mean, hopefully they can end this losing streak, but you know, if they don't, they don't.
Yeah,
play Jimenez every day.
Yeah, Andres Jimenez needs to start. Ahmad Rosario needs off the roster. Go get cake while we're in Oakland. So, all right, for the WFNY CornerCast, for Ethan, for Mitch, I bid you all a good night.